On the way. Oh, we're live. Alrighty. I'm Amanda Brand with geekphoria.net and Junkies Nation, and I write for a few other things. And today we're having our 10th, which is crazy, Con at Home Hangout. And here we're discussing all different types, or fantasy and all different types of media.
Oh,
So Chelsea's with me. And Chelsea, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
alrighty. Well, my name is Kelsey. I blog over at aprilsprinkles.blogspot.com, and I talk about crafting and whatnot, and have a whole bunch of crafts coming up. You can catch me at CraftyLilKels on Twitter and Instagram.
Sweet. Ooh, I have this craft thing that I'm doing that I just got the idea for because I had like something lying out, and I'm pretty excited. I'm hoping it turns out, but it might
Awesome.
not, so that's why I'm not gonna say what it was, but I'm pretty excited. All right. So,
Okay.
Kelsey, you can go ahead and tell us why you wanted to do fantasy, talk about fantasy, and
Okay, I will do that then.
okay.
Okay, fantasy has been a huge part of my life. Since, we can include Disney, right? Because
Oh
Disney
yeah.
is fantasy, and I am a huge Disney princess. They just haven't written my story yet. And that's where it really all started for me. And then in middle school, when Lord of the Rings came out, and my friends were really into it, and I was like, okay, I want to be part of this group. So Lord of the Rings opened my eyes to everything else fantasy out there. And then recently I started playing Skyrim, so dragons.
Uh, I need to play Skyrim. I downloaded it. I think it was last year's um Steam sale,
Mhm.
but I haven't gotten around to it. Mostly because I'm always super busy with scroll stuff, so I haven't finished like any games recently. I've started a bunch of them because I'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't feel like playing this. I guess I'll play this tonight.
Hmm.
But I haven't finished any of them.
Just play a little bit at a time. You'll get to it eventually. Just
Yeah.
work through the storyline slow and steady.
I have this friend who started playing it right when it came out, and he's still, I think, playing through like the same storyline. And that's been like 5 years, right? It's been a
Yes,
while.
it really has. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I used to watch my ex play it, so I was like, this looks like an amazing game. And finally, this last Steam sale, I was like, you know what? I'm getting it. I have some free time. I'm gonna play it, and now I'm just
Nice.
dragons. Which, by the way, dragons, everybody! Look at my
Dragons.
baby!
They're so cute.
I love my
They're
dragon.
adorable.
Got them today.
I have dragons. 1 second. More
Get a
dragons. Ow,
dragon!
kitty. Stop it, kitty.
Kitty, you are not a dragon.
These are just within reach. They're the pop vinyls. So here's Drogon. And I believe it's Viserion is the white one.
Yeah,
Might
I
be
don't know
Rhaegal.
the
I'm pretty sure it's
names.
Viserion. But yeah, so it's the
Awesome.
mini figures, the blind box one, and then just the regular one. I
He's
have
so
so many.
cute. That
It's
one,
very cute.
this
What?
one
Okay.
reminds me of that black one that's evil.
Before I go into my point of view, or like why I decided, well, partially because I had to, but why I decided to do tonight's hangout. When you're looking at dragons, do you prefer like the westernized dragons, the ones without arms and just wings, or do you like them to have arms or legs like toothless?
Oh, I like them to have legs,
Me too.
definitely.
I
Because
like them
otherwise
to.
it doesn't
It
really
kind
make
of
sense.
weirds me out. Like it kind of reminds me of like a monster movie, sort of. I mean, it's
Yeah.
cool and it's definitely awesome, and I think it's technically like right to not have arms or front legs, but
Yeah,
I think they're always cuter when they have front legs.
me too. And I don't know, to me it makes more sense that they have
Yeah.
legs because you look at their wings and either they're gonna have to have claws or something on here in order
Hmm.
for it to work as an arm. But then I guess birds don't have claws. But they have
Yeah,
legs. They have legs.
they do.
They have two legs.
So, I mean, it's basically, do you think a dragon is more like a bird, or is it just a lizard that happens to have wings
I
as
like the
well?
lizard with wings.
Yeah,
What I
me
pick.
too. Me too.
I still need to see that movie, How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh
It's
my
on my
God. My
list. I
sister
need to see
hadn't
it.
seen it either, and I made her watch it with the hopes that we'd, like, I was at my parents' house, with the hopes that as a family we'd go out and see the second one so I wouldn't have to
Mhm.
pay for it myself.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen,
Darn.
which was sad.
I mean,
So I'll
like,
probably have to go, like, I don't know. I'm in a college town, so, like, nobody is here during the summer.
oh,
There's, like,
jeez.
a tenth of the population. So I might just go, like, one weekday and be, like, sitting by myself in the movie theater, like no one else there because there's nobody, and watch it.
Well, that's like awesome. You could spread out, be like,
Yeah.
"Here's my
Be like, I'm gonna
popcorn."
put my popcorn in this seat and my drink in that seat. Okay, stop it. Anyway, so fantasy. Um, basically, like you said, I've always been a fantasy. I've always been more, you know, how everything's sci-fi slash fantasy. I've always been more on the fantasy side than the sci-fi side. Probably because I usually read books and there's a lot more female protagonists in like the young adult fantasy books than there were, and there aren't even really a whole lot of young adult sci-fi books.
Yeah, when
But
you're yeah.
yeah, so when I was reading it, and there's a lot more coming of age as opposed to in sci-fi, they're usually like established in whatever sort of hierarchy is going on, whether it's like some sort of Starfleet or whatever. So there's a
Yeah.
lot more coming of age stuff. So I think that when you're younger, fantasy is a lot more approachable than sci-fi.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, that's for sure.
And especially, I don't know, being young and female, it's a lot
Mhm.
more, uh, it's easier to see yourself in it than in other types of media. He's chewing on, he was chewing on the scissors. He's just sitting there, just going, ah, my cat. That's so loud. You probably didn't hear it, but it was so loud in here.
No, I didn't hear it at all, so that's good.
Yeah, so I'm
Kitty.
trying to like stop him with one hand while trying to remember what I'm saying with the other. Such a weird cat.
Well, you accomplished it, yay. So that's good. Yeah, I mean, when I think about it, because my friends introduced me to a lot of other books other than the Lord of the Rings, like the Sword of Shannara series,
Hmm.
which I
Yeah.
don't remember anything about that anymore. um, but thinking back, it really was easier to go down the fantasy path than it was to sci-fi. But when I got older in my 20s and late teens, I was like, oh yeah, Star Trek, Star Wars, yes, I'm all about this again. Yes.
Yeah, like I always enjoyed sci-fi too, but I don't know, I just always found fantasy more relatable.
Yeah.
Did you ever read Tamara Pierce's any of her books?
I, maybe.
I know she has
Maybe
like the Song of the Lioness Quartet, and a bunch of ones based off of that, and then Circle of Magic books,
oh, I
and a
heard
few other
Circle of
ones.
Magic, but I
Yeah.
never read any of those.
So, like, that's probably when I was in like kindergarten, the first set of fantasy books that I picked up. So those are really good.
Hmm.
And I mean, like, it's the thing that I liked about the Song of the Lioness is that it starts off for like middle-aged readers, like 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and then it gets a little more advanced and a little more adult as it went on, which is
Oh,
nice.
that's clever.
Also, a little like if you came in after they were all published, you're like, all of a sudden people are having sex in these books. Like, I'm in fifth grade. What's going on?
I need an adult. Please
Which is
help me.
I remember the first time I was in class and I was reading it. It was like, you know, quiet reading time. I get to the part and I'm just like, and I'm like, anyone see what I'm reading? I hope not. That's embarrassing. And it's just like panic attack in the classroom.
Oh my gosh. And that just reminds me, Harry Potter is fantasy
Ah,
too.
yes, totally fantasy.
And just along the same lines, even though that it doesn't really have sex in it, but it definitely
It,
gets
yeah,
way
aged.
serious when it gets
Yeah,
older.
definitely. Like gets serious, but then in the middle, there's like a little bit of like just moody. Like all the characters are just moody in the middle.
Yes!
And it's like, oh, that's so growing up.
It is Because they're just teenagers, exactly like how we were. Like,
Yeah. So when you're um let's say preference-wise, when you're reading or watching fantasy, do you prefer it to be high fantasy like Lord of the Rings, or do you prefer for it to be urban fantasy where like it's magical creatures in a regular world, or like somewhere in the middle, Harry Potter, it's magic going on in the same world but we don't know about it, but it's well established and
I like everything, but I think
you gotta pick one. I asked you
okay,
to
I'll
pick
pick the
one.
middle. The middle.
Okay. Stop it, kitty.
This felt like doing this. Um, yeah, okay, middle then,
Okay,
because
no.
uh, Harry Potter definitely, but fantasy when you really immerse yourself into that world,
hmm
it's a little harder for me to really grasp it as much as thinking of things being magical in my own world. You know, like I'd
Yeah.
much rather have fantasies personally, like I'm thinking I read Harry Potter, I watch the movies, and then I think, hey, I could be a wizard, I could go to Hogwarts. Or, True Blood, which is another one of my favorites, is oh, there could be vampires, there could be werewolves, and they're in real life, not in um, Middle Earth somewhere that I don't know anything about. Like I do like Game of Thrones, dragons, and but I always think of it sort of as medieval England, which is weird.
Yeah, that's. I think it's because of the influence of Tolkien. I
Definitely.
mean, apparently we both read it when we were young, but I think fantasy, I think, like medieval Europe. But it would be really cool if there was like a high fantasy sound. There probably is one. If anyone watches this or is watching it later on, and you think of a really, really good high fantasy series that's set somewhere besides like white people land,
Yeah,
I'd really be interested in reading it.
tell me
I
about
think
it.
that'd be really cool.
I want to know
Like in
because
India or East Asia, that'd be really cool.
yeah, I agree with this.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, everybody, tell us. Come on, tell us in the comments.
Seriously, in the comments. Yeah, that'd be seriously cool.
Because we're so like I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Overburdened sort of with all these white
Yeah.
guys, old white guys writing stories about
Yeah.
and it's all English. They all have English accents or their American accents or whatever. And
Are really, really, really bad English accents.
yes.
Oh
Oh gosh.
man. But the Dornish in this last season, they had like Spanish accents.
Yeah, that's true. Which was a really nice change, I
Mhm.
thought. And I was like, yes,
Definitely.
exotic. I like that.
Oh.
That's funny.
So, what would you say your favorite fantasy titles are? Let's say you can name two or three common ones, and then two or three that you think are a little more obscure that people would know. So if they think about it, or if they want to, they can go and watch or read or whatever.
I'm like looking at my bookshelf, but I don't have that many fantasy on here. Um, okay, so I'm gonna have to say Harry Potter, number one, and um, Lord of the Rings, but not The Hobbit. I liked it, but oh my gosh, it took so long just to get over how somehow somewhat dry it is.
Yeah, it's
Honestly,
like
like
the first half of the Fellowship of the Rings
oh
of the
yeah,
Ring is like the Hobbit, where you're like, am I ever gonna get through this?
like
And I
are
think
they?
the only
Oh
reason I read Lord of the Rings when I was younger is my dad was like, you should read this, and then my mom's like, she can't read that, she's too young to read that, she won't be able to finish it. So I like made myself do it so I could prove it. Anyway,
mm.
sorry, I interrupted. And then your two.
Okay, so again, I would say Sword of Shannara because that's the one that I'm thinking of right now
Mhm.
as sort of lesser known, at least as far as I can tell, because I can talk to people about it and they'll be like, I have not heard of this book. But the first three books that I can remember, I think I got through those really fast. It was an interesting world that I can remember. Um, and it's just sort of like it reminds me of Legend of Zelda, sort of, because it's about an elf guy.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to call him Link because that's how I pictured him in my head. I should really read those books again, probably. Someone out there is like,
Probably.
I'm an expert on this and you're weird.
So I was going to bring up Legend of Zelda for at least Ocarina of Time. I think that's like a great fantasy storyline, as well as a video game can really have one that's more
Mhm.
mainstream. And then, like, I'm a huge freaking Lord of the Rings fan. Like, I'm obsessed. So I can't keep that off of my top two list.
Mhm.
But for things that people probably don't know much about, I mean, probably more in the nerd community, but for like sort of urban fantasy, is Fables.
Fables! Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be really good. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's gotten definitely a lot better known ever since Telltale came out
Is it
with
Bad
The
Wolf?
Wolf Among Us.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one.
Ooh, but if you want another graphic novel that's not as well known as Fables, it's a one-shot graphic novel by Neil Gaiman, and it's called The Books of Magic,
Is that the
and it's
one
really
where the
good.
badgers?
With
The
what?
badgers? Am I
No, there's
just
no
okay?
badgers.
That's something else. Okay, never mind. I saw him
Basically,
painted as a
it's
badger.
about a British boy with dark hair and glasses and gets an owl that is told that he's magic, but before Harry Potter happened.
Nice.
And
Nice.
it's a really quick read, so that's a lot of fun. And then another book by Elizabeth Moon is The Deeds of Paxtonarian, and that's about this girl who runs away from home and like joins up with this sort of medieval army slash police force, and basically goes out and kicks a whole bunch of ass.
Nice. I
So
like
that's
this.
a lot of fun. It's huge though. It's like super. Oh, I think it's right over there. I don't know if I can reach it because I'm attached. It's right here. But yeah. So it's backwards, but you can see it. And it's won like tons of awards and stuff.
Yeah, that does
And
look
it's a
pretty.
trilogy.
I don't mind. I like
So
big books
it's
and I cannot lie.
took me forever to get through it though, because I like to read before I go to bed. So I'd be like, oh god, I
Yeah.
can't read. Oh god, it's so big.
And you really do not want to fall asleep and let that fall on your face.
No, it would be
No.
painful.
Ow. That happens to me too often. I'm like, just, it's such a good book. And then, oh gosh.
I know.
What
I
happened?
mean, I love reading a book, but that's the nice thing kind of about like ebook and e-readers is that you're not gonna like crinkle the crap out of it if you fall asleep on it or anything like that. Like I like my books to be in like nice condition. Like
Yes.
I got this in eighth grade and it still looks
Wow.
pretty nice. I have
Yeah,
other
it
books that
does.
look like crap though. I have one book that my dog chewed up.
Oh
It's
no.
actually that Tamora Pierce, one of the Immortals series. So that's a sequel to the Song of the Lioness series. But it's like chewed up on all the edges and everything. But no,
Oh,
you're a bad dog.
a dog. No. Do you not know books are important? Mm.
No, apparently
Crap.
not.
No, books are for chewing. Yeah, I'm going through the Sookie Stackhouse novels right now. Um,
I think all I have to do is read the last one.
yeah, that was a hard one to find. Like, I
Yeah.
randomly came across it at a secondhand bookstore, but never again.
Yeah, like when I heard the series was coming out, no, no, it was before I had read the first two and then heard the series was coming out.
Ah,
But I got like this big box set of like the first seven of them. So they're all
nice.
together. And I hate then moving on and getting more because then they don't look the same.
Yes.
And it's so frustrating.
Hmm.
But you brought up uh Southern Vampire slash True Blood slash Suki
Werewolves.
Stackhouse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fairies.
Personally, where do you draw the line between like what you consider horror and what you consider fantasy?
Um, okay, so the line is about where people start getting really, really mauled and uh
But
honestly, True Blood
haven't you
scared the
seen
crap out of me
George
when I
R. R.
first.
Martin kill anyone? Like, that's mauled.
Okay, yeah. But it's like for some reason, because they're both murders, right? Like if you consider the ones that happen in the first season of True Blood,
Hmm.
where it was a serial killer, and then you consider someone just cutting somebody else's head off in Westeros, it's like they're the same thing, but for some reason over here in Westeros that makes sense, and that's totally okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it sucks. Like I like that person, but you like these people too. And the other one,
Yeah.
but it's modern. And that's where I'd say I draw the line sort of because modern horror, in a way, like anything that is out of the norm for regular life, which is killing people
Hmm.
and yeah, killing them viciously, that's and yeah, some things in Game of Thrones do scare me too, but at least I'm not like over here crying or anything.
Oh.
I'm good.
Yeah.
um, but let's see, like when I think of horror movies, because I don't watch that many, honestly. I've watched, Freddy Krueger and Halloween and Scream and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I guess I was thinking more like books as opposed to movies or
ah,
shows. Especially like, okay, if you have a book that's all vampires or werewolves, or mostly vampires or werewolves, when do you decide it's fantasy and when do you decide it's like some sort of horror or a soft horror? Like if
okay.
it's not trying to be scary, but it all has is vampires, is that fantasy or is it horror?
Let's see. So, fantasy would be vampires living in the world without being. I mean, they could be known, like in True Blood, or
Hmm.
they could be unknown, like in Dracula or Twilight. Because I'm lacking of vampire books currently.
Hmm.
um, we will not talk about Twilight right now,
No, we
though.
won't.
um,
That's not that doesn't exist.
mm, forget I said anything. It was that one book that doesn't exist. Um, and then
The
thinking of
book that
it,
shall not be named.
yes, we'll go with that.
Hmm.
So horror would be along the lines of maybe vampires like going on killing sprees, sort
Hmm.
of, and really, oh man,
What if
I
there's
don't.
a vampire going on a killing spree and another vampire, and then the main character and the vampire get into a relationship?
Oh my gosh.
I'm just saying, this is something that always puzzles me. Like, how do you classify these things? I mean, some of them are like urban fantasy,
Isn't
and I
that
guess
like
a
a.
lot of them fall into like paranormal romance.
Yes,
So,
that would be a paranormal romance because, oh, someone falls in love with a vampire. It's
okay.
like, and I've had a hard time because, just trying to look at the books that are in certain sections, and I thought, okay, first of all, fantasy for True Blood, not in fantasy. Then I thought, is it a mystery? Because people die and nobody knows why. I don't know. Paranormal, okay, here's something. And then there's a paranormal romance section?
I know, it's just out of
What?
hand. It's out of control.
How is it even? I thought, well, okay, now that I think about the term paranormal, it means beyond normal or something like that.
Yeah.
And I always think paranormal originally deals
It's
with
like ghosts
aliens.
or
Oh,
aliens.
ghosts.
Ghosts and
Yeah,
aliens.
things like that. And just vampires, werewolves, how are they paranormal?
I know. Like I always thought of those as more like a horror themed.
Yeah, exactly. Because all of those old movies, now that I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
ooh, the Wolfman and I mean, Teen Wolf wasn't really a horror movie, but there were some that were.
But then, like, I mean, not Teen Wolf, but those ones were like trying to be scary and trying to give you that certain tingly fear,
Mhm.
whatever. So maybe that's like, I don't know. But the thing is, I don't know if I want to make the designation between paranormal or fantasy or whatever. Just, is it in horror? Is it trying to scare you? Does it want you to be scared? I don't know. It seems a little sophomore to me.
Yeah, it does. Like they're just trying to give you a little bit of a thrill, so you want to
Yeah.
keep watching it. Like, ooh, someone's gonna get bitten and they might die, or they might turn into a werewolf. What's gonna happen? I don't know.
Yeah. But I
And
mean,
then,
typically when I think about fantasy and something, if I'm like, it's definitely fantasy, even if it's like urban fantasy, is if it has any freaking fairies in it, then it's
yes,
fantasy. Fairies slash
yes,
elves, any of the fae folk, that's fantasy.
completely agree with you there. That is
Mhm.
pretty much the key term when it comes to fantasy. You think fantasy, automatically fairies. That is where I go directly. Which is so weird. I mean, because there are other fantasy
Yeah.
characters and types
Dragons.
of.
If there's a dragon in it, it's fantasy.
Oh yeah, gonna put me a dragon back on my shoulder. There we go. A dragon.
Wizards.
Wizards, of
Wizards.
course. Magic of any kind, really.
Yeah.
Which wizards and fae and dragons. I mean, not
They're all magical
very cool.
creatures, magical beings.
Yeah. And then with True Blood, like you don't really think of vampires and werewolves necessarily as magical,
Hmm.
but now with True Blood, they explain that they're running on magic,
Yeah.
basically. And that's a different way of looking at it because normally you don't think of werewolves and vampires as magical unless you think. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
but now they are. But is it magical? Would it be horror fantasy? No, I don't know where I'm going with this. Never mind.
Hypotheticals.
Because what would it be called if it's just werewolf and vampires? Are they still fantasy? Or what are they?
That's the question. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I'm so confused.
Oh man. It's
Someone, if
brutal.
you know the answer to this question, please tell us.
Yeah, we have a Q&A going. Oh wait.
Do we? I don't know.
Yeah. I might not have actually. Yeah, okay. So now it's definitely open. I think it was open before, but it's definitely super open now.
And I'm
So the
still
one
getting
viewer
blocked.
who's watching this at the moment is like, why are you two morons and talking about vampires? Well,
Because it's we don't know. Okay, you tell us.
we were talking about the distinction between genres and subgenres.
Mhm.
I yeah.
Now, okay, now I need to bring zombies into it because I see shotgun and stuff
You
in
see, I
certain
feel
horror.
like zombies are always horror.
Yeah, really, me too. Like they're just crossed the line. Now they're in horror. They're
Yeah.
not anything else.
I think it's because they don't have, I mean, unless you're in some weird, stupid, well, not stupid, but like contrived sort of zombie setting where zombies have personalities and like
Oh,
their
like
own
horror
points of views.
movies.
Yeah, like that. Like, mostly when you have zombies, you have the characters and the antagonists are out as the zombies, and what
Mhm.
are, themselves and deep humanity or whatever. But the thing is that they're definitely an obstacle to what's going on, and they're going to rip you apart and kill you.
Yeah,
So I feel like that's always horror.
definitely. Okay, so we covered that anyway.
Yes.
Um, so that's good. It's like the White Walkers in Game of Thrones.
Those are
They're
super fantasy.
yeah,
Because they're magic. I'm pretty sure
they're magical
magical.
zombies.
I mean, he doesn't say a whole lot about them. I don't even think there's. I mean, the race that the White Walkers bring up. So,
Hmm.
like the guy who attacked Mormont in the first season, he's a
Hmm.
zombie. Race
Yeah.
zombies, close enough to the same thing. But the White Walkers, I think, are like their own race of some sort of magical beings.
I think so
So it
too.
would be like the giants or dragons or anything except
Hmm.
they're humanoid.
Yes. Interesting.
Dragons. Wish I
Yes.
had a fluffy dragon. I have a Dragonair.
Dragonair! Yeah! Pokemon! Yes. This is so ridiculous. I can't believe I just got these today and this happened. It's
It
perfect.
was fate. It had to happen. That's
It
just what's going on.
was meant to be. Oh my gosh. So let's see, what else is fantasy?
What
Hmm.
else do we like to do that's fantasy?
It's like everything.
I know. The thing is, like, we're doing these hangouts and we're doing broad topics to begin with, so half the time it's like, what do you even talk about?
Well, we could talk about the new Hobbit movie that's coming out.
I did not enjoy the last one that was
Oh, you
out.
didn't?
I felt
There's
really sad too. I was like really disappointed
oh,
because
I'm so
I'm a
sorry.
big Lord of the Rings fan,
Yeah.
big Tolkien fan. So I was just like, the thing was like there was just over CGI'd. Like Lord of the
Yes.
Rings movies, they had a lot of practical effects and stuff. These movies, he's just throwing CGI at everything. Like there's a scene where Legolas rode away on a horse, and it was CGI.
Yeah.
Like he jumps on the horse and is galloping away, and the whole freaking thing's CGI. Like you don't need to do that. And then there's the scene where Thorin like boogie boards using a wheelbarrow on a river of molten gold. I'm like, really? Is this
Yes.
what we're doing?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that part. I
Like,
think the reason why I liked it the most because Dragon and also
yeah, I
because
mean,
Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, come on. I
and
just I probably just got really obsessed with the dragon and forgot about him. Oh my gosh, those things. Now you
then
remind
like
me of them.
I like, you know, for the most part, like the idea of tutorial. Actually, I don't even know if I like the idea of it, but I feel like they're just like, look, we have to have a girl so we can have some sort of romance. And we're just gonna make it exactly the same as it was in Lord of the Rings, pretty much.
Yep.
Let's just
Except this
mirror
time.
everything that happens.
Yep. Like, we couldn't just have a female character and not have her
No.
be a part of a romance. No, we can't have a strong female character who's a strong, independent woman. No, she has to be like, oh, I like this little dwarf. I think I'm gonna marry him or
But then there's
something.
also Orlando Bloom. They're
Yeah, well,
both attractive. I don't even know what's going on. And then they gotta be all snickety about who gets to do who. And
yes.
I felt like that was also being just shoved down your throat.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Like, I like the additions that they had, mostly because of the book being so I don't want to say any bad words about it because I liked it. I liked the book, I promise people. But um I like the new additions.
Like,
Even if Tariel isn't if she just wasn't a romantic interest to somebody, I would love
yeah.
to cosplay as her in a second. I would do that. Just need to get all the stuff together and also be taller. But, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I like seeing some of the stuff that was in the Silmarillion
Yeah.
that we know were going on at the same time.
Hmm.
Like they put all the stuff with the necromancer and all that in. I like
Yeah.
seeing that for the most part.
Me too.
Um, but yeah, like, and then they did such a, they're so playing up Feely and Keely
Yeah.
because you're like, oh, they're so attractive. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do with them next. I'm like, first off, if they do the Battle of the Five Armies right, I'm gonna be so excited.
Mm,
If they change things, I'm probably gonna nerd rage for a while.
yeah.
But I mean, they have to change, or at least add a whole lot more because it's like the last two chapters of the book is gonna be an entire freaking movie of itself.
Exactly.
Like
That's
I don't even know what's happening.
like, what are we gonna do here? Is this gonna be? What else are you gonna add to this? Tell me.
I know.
And that
Maybe
comes out.
like Toriel and Keeley get drunk and go to Middle Earth, Las Vegas, and get married, and Legolas gets upset and tries to run in and break up the marriage. That's probably it.
It just turns into a fantasy
Thranduil is like, I don't even know what's going on.
I just imagine like
I'm just concerned.
I bet, yes, because you're a huge Tolkien fan. So
Yeah.
it's like what could possibly happen? And I'm sure it's gonna be somewhere in between following the story and romantic comedy. I hope not
Yeah.
though. I hope
I
it's
hope
more
not
like
too.
find the other books because I just got the Lost Tales. I had it once and then I lent it to a friend and she kind of
I hate it when
never
that
gave it
happens.
back. But so I got that again and I
God,
need
that's
to read it.
horrible. Hate it when people ruin everything.
Yeah, just like stop. Can you just follow the story? Can you just give me back my book? Can you not be an awful person? Maybe more
Uh,
dragons. Throw more dragons in there. No, that won't work.
yeah, like seven dragons.
Like, haha, Smoghead babies, he's a girl.
It's gonna be like the end of the 1998 Godzilla movie, where they kill Godzilla and then it like pans down, and then there's a bunch of eggs and then end credits.
Yep. That's exactly what's gonna happen, except they'll keep going and those eggs will hatch and then because
They'll
they
be
gotta fill
like
up movie
The Hobbit
time.
4. Peter Jackson takes over. Also, more CGI. Everything's CGI. They don't even bother hiring actors this time around.
Oh jeez. They're like, you did everything this time. We're just gonna piece together every little part
It's like we
that
have
you said
9 hours
before.
of footage of you.
Even the parts where y'all messed up, we'll just use the words, piece them together, make your mouth move in CGI. It'll be perfect.
Excellent.
And you won't be paid a dime.
Oh man.
We're coming up with worst case scenarios here.
I know. I know.
I'm honestly thinking they're just gonna overcharge us for like a half an hour movie.
Well, okay, so if it
God.
takes Smog like an hour and a half to fly over and like start attacking the town, and then it takes them another hour and a half to go back from the town, um, back to the Lonely Mountain. I mean, I guess it could be 3 hours if you go really, really slowly.
Yeah, and just like watch them walking.
Yeah, I mean, we did that before.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was like a
it was totally into
montage.
it.
Montage.
Some of my
Walking.
favorite parts of the Fellowship of the Ring are when you see them walking, because it's just like all the cinematography and stuff.
Oh
See
yes.
like all these people just walking snow-covered mountains or across prairies or over ledges. And like, oh, this is an awesome film. I'm so
Yes.
glad Peter Jackson made this movie. Then
Yes.
I was sitting there in the desolation of, I always say smog because I read that as a kid and that's how I pronounced it.
Isn't that
It's
how
like
do they say
Smaug, like Sauron. It's Smaug because it's the same
Smaug?
AU. So it makes the same sound, except I can't do it because one, that's the way it's stuck in my head as smog.
Yeah.
And then also, I don't even think my mouth can make that noise going into the G.
Yeah, I'm not gonna change my opinion of that name right now.
No,
I'm just gonna keep
no,
saying smog.
yeah. I don't
And my
even know.
dad
I
can make
forget what I
dad
was saying.
jokes. Like, smog.
But yeah, so
It's
I
a
was watching
dragon.
that and I'm like, what happened to all the pretty cinematography? Feel like I'm playing a video game, except it's a movie.
Yeah.
I was just sad. I was like super bummed after I came home from that movie. Second time, I had lower expectations going into when I went and watched it. So I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, this is enjoyable. I did enjoy it. But first time I was just like ready to cry when I left.
Oh. It's because, yeah, high expectations ruin everything
Yeah.
so much. I'm trying to think of a movie I just watched recently. No, that's The Fault in Our Stars. Never mind. But it was a good movie anyway.
Oh, and then like I was also super uncomfortable for like a quarter of the time when we were watching Desolation Simone because I'm just like, oh God, this reminds me of like really bad fan fiction I wrote when I was 13. Like I can't
I
even handle this.
I know what you're talking about now, and I
It's
didn't
like we
think
made this really, really pretty elf girl, and like the prince is in love with her, but then so is a sexy dwarf. And then she really, really kicks ass, and she's gonna take on all the armies and the bad guys all by herself. But the guys can go and help too in case anything weird goes on.
Yep, yep. I know them feels.
Yep.
I wrote some things like that too. Like
I know,
Lord
but
of the
I mean,
Rings,
I
the
feel
only
like
thing.
everyone did.
Yeah, because Lord of the Rings was the only thing that ever made me write something. Like I'm like, I can write a fantasy novel. This
I
is
know.
awesome. I could do this. Elves and stuff. Yeah. And
Oh.
then I feel weird reading them again. I'm just like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, I don't.
We're just gonna keep
Heck, I feel uncomfortable if I even like hear fanfiction.net. I'm like, oh God, there's so much crap that came out of my head on that site that they should just burn the whole thing down. I know it's the
that.
internet, they need to burn it down.
Yeah.
It's the only way to cleanse the world of any of this.
I think quite a few people would agree with you too. Like, all right, I got some stuff on here too. Let's burn it down.
I
Burn
feel
down
like
everything.
they need to go through and be like, okay, how old is everyone on here? When was the last time they were active? And then if it's like over 21 and they were less active like 6 years ago, they just need to just permanently delete that from the world.
Oh my gosh. Yep. I kept mine on paper, so
Mm, yeah.
these
I
forget passwords and like
wish I had done that.
then I can just shred it, but then I never do. Like, oh, this might be important later. In case I want to really embarrass myself in front of my
I
children
know.
eventually.
Oh man.
Oh gosh.
I think I also had like some X-Men things in there too.
I definitely did Pirates of the Caribbean.
I had Newsies, Disney's Newsies.
Nice.
But yeah. Okay, now I am on fanfiction.net
No!
seeing if any of my stuff's still on there.
Oh my gosh.
I searched what I thought was my writer name. I didn't see it though, so that could be good.
It's a good
Maybe they got
start.
rid of it.
Hey, maybe they did burn it down.
I don't
Maybe
know,
they do
because
have that policy.
I had two different names. One was just Lord of the Rings and one was other stuff. And the one with all the other stuff is still up. I see it.
Oh.
God, last time I was on here was 2005.
Oh my gosh.
Last time any of my friends who were writing was on here was 2007. I'm not even going to click on any of these because they're going to be completely awful to read.
Yeah, don't don't what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it right now, so dragon.
Oh man.
Not incriminate yourself, that's not what I'm thinking of. It's something. Oh, I don't know.
Don't be a dick, Amanda.
Yeah, Amanda.
Oh, okay, so back to fantasy. We got horribly sidetracked, but I got horribly sidetracked.
And I'm just playing with dragons.
I'm the worst moderator in the world because I start talking about my embarrassing fan fiction and then have to go look it up.
And I'm just playing with dragons. So,
You're sitting there with dragons like all over you.
can't
um,
move. I cannot move. Let's see.
do you think that fantasy is in the same, better, or worse place? Either if we're talking about like the stories that are coming out, or talking about how, let's say, how it's perceived, like in fantasy perceived in different social contexts. Do you think it's better or worse than it was, say, 5 years ago?
Oh, well, from my own personal standpoint, because I'm more into sci-fi and
Mhm.
um, other things, I guess, currently. So it's changed where I haven't focused on fantasy as much. So I don't really know. Like, there was definitely a huge lag in fantasy coverage or like fantasy interest after
Mhm.
the Lord of the Rings. And like, we'll say about 2 years after that, maybe. And in between that time and when The Hobbit came out, like, it just didn't seem like there were any really good fantasy stories that were coming out. But that could be just me because maybe I didn't really pay attention.
Yeah.
Um, search for fantasy right now.
There definitely was like a lack of fantasy in movies and TV. It started up a little bit more after I think the story that we're not naming came out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That definitely caused a bit of a resurgence in it. But I
And then,
feel like fantasy. I feel like people who like fantasy are still like people haven't quite mainstreamed as much as, say, especially comic books, and
yeah,
then to a little less sci-fi. But I feel like if people are thinking about fantasy nerds, they still just like think of D&D and LARPers and stuff, and are like,
yeah,
oh, they're huge nerds.
yeah. Like that. You make a good point because that is really where my brain first goes. It reminds me of me in middle school being a total dork and writing to my friend in Elvish. So
Yeah, I was
that
there too.
so it's like
Not that it's anything to be ashamed of.
it's not
It
because
just
that's just
wasn't
how we were.
perceived very well by our peers.
Mhm. And especially being into anime at the same time, it was like, yeah, just try being proud of yourself when everyone's like, "What are you wearing? Why are you wearing it?
Oh man,
I'm
those
an
are sad.
otaku shirt. What does that even mean?" And why do you have proto pagans on your shirt? Don't you know Legolas is the hot one? I'm like, get over it.
Oh,
And they're only going by hotness. They don't even care
I
about the
know.
story. And here we are, we care about the story. We're writing fan fiction, and everybody else is like, well, I watched it because they're hot.
I mean, as somebody who was like pubescent at that time, it was definitely helpful in the movies. But I'd been, like I was a big fan from when I was like the years before that movies even came out. When movies came out, I'm like, my favorite thing, and then attractive men too.
Yes.
Like I'm 13, I can't handle this.
Yes.
It's too much for me.
hmm I'm looking up the top fantasy shows of all time.
Ooh, shows.
Yeah, and I just saw Supernatural, so a huge Supernatural fan. But they also have a whole bunch of
I
anime on here, like Dragon Ball
yeah,
Z, One Piece, Death Note, Attack on Titan, and Avatar: Last Airbender.
definitely.
And something I've never even heard of, Layla and Mechnum? Mechnum? Sorry, anyone who knows what that is. But that's number two, which is crazy, something that I've never even heard of.
Yeah. Google it, see what it's about.
Okay, go to
I'm gonna Google highest grossing fantasy movies.
go there.
Probably stupid Avatar is gonna be on there. Number one. Yeah, number one, Avatar. No, not Star Wars, not Star Wars.
I still have not
What?
seen that, and I will not watch it.
You're not gonna
Avatar.
see Star Wars? Oh.
Avatar. No, I mean, come
I'm
on.
like, you just said you liked Star Wars.
My at-ats. AT-ATs back
I
there.
saw Avatar, but the only reason I saw Avatar, yeah, I'm like, you got, I always said at-ats, but,
It says it's pronounced phonetically, and I couldn't remember how that was said,
oh
so
yeah, that's,
I was like,
at-at
I don't
thing
know.
is, I think it's like a colloquial term within the fantasy universe is at-at, because they say ATST,
Uh-huh.
and they say it like that, but they say at-at, and I think it's just because it's easier to say.
Yeah. It's like it's fast, R2D2. I don't know what I'm thinking of
Yeah.
right now. So, Layla and Mechnum is a Turkish TV series.
Mm.
Famous, and it's based on a famous Arabic love story. Layla and Majid. Imagine. Yeah.
So it has to take like until I'm like, gosh, I mean, Monsters Inc. is in fantasy, and that's 31. It's probably the smallest movie on here. That How the Grinch Stole Christmas. They're being very liberal with the fantasy title. Okay,
Yeah.
Batman, Batman. Okay, just Night at the Museum can be fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, things come to life, but
Yeah.
not
I would not
Batman.
count Bruce Almighty as fantasy.
It's like, I guess it's sort of fantasy, but like, what else would it be called?
Yeah, yeah.
They need a different section. They
There's
need a section.
Ghostbusters. Which
It's
it's
paranormal.
like paranormal. Yeah, I thought it was like comedy horror.
Yeah.
You know, Oz the Great and Powerful. Okay, I'll give you that. I don't know if I'll give you Hancock. I'm just trying to look for like. Well, I know they're not gonna be on here. They're small.
There's Lost on here. Red versus Blue. Um, what? Pushing Daisies.
What women want?
What?
No, I'm done.
We need. Oh my gosh! Like actual fantasy list. Come on, people.
Yeah, like
What
high
is this?
fantasy. Like, give me some fucking unicorns.
For real though, we need some unicorns. Damn it.
But
Hi-
speaking of unicorns, good time for fantasy is 80s Trump movies. So
Yeah.
like Legend and Labyrinth and
Uh,
Lady Hawk,
the Never-Ending Story.
Neverending Story, all that stuff.
Would Gremlins be considered fantasy or sci-fi? Do you think?
Ooh, have to go with fantasy because they're not aliens. If they were aliens, I'd go with sci-fi.
Okay, so then E.T. is sci-fi and
Yeah.
Gremlins are more fantasy.
Yeah, because I try to think of them as like tiny, not very well known mythological creatures. Because, you
Hmm.
know, he gets them in like the
Yeah.
sort of magic-y shop.
Hmm. I don't know why that just reminded me of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I some I must have watched them like at the same time because they're related to me now. Don't know why.
Oh, I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oop. No, I'm not gonna sneeze. I thought I was gonna sneeze. And I did not sneeze.
So let's see. There's Chronicles of Narnia too,
Yeah.
which does not have a unicorn, but it does have um, talking lions. So there's
Yep.
that.
It has a bunch of other mythological creatures, like satyrs and
Yes,
is that how you pronounce it? Satyr?
that's how I pronounce it.
Okay, well that's how everyone should fucking pronounce it. Oh, sorry. So that's how everyone should pronounce it then. Whoops,
Beep,
YouTube.
beep. Sorry,
Beep,
delayed beep.
beep.
That didn't even happen. I mean,
Nope,
nothing happened.
nope.
Yeah, Dark Tower's on there too, which is on my list.
I
I have the
read
Gunslinger. I
the
haven't
first
yet.
one, and I wasn't all that much into it, so I haven't picked up the other ones since then. And then in the time that's gone between the two, I kind of forgot what happened in the first one.
Oh.
So I'd have to go back and reread the first one. But I didn't
Mhm.
particularly enjoy it, so I don't want to. Ah, kitty. I don't want to go back and
Kitty.
reread the first one. I might
Yeah,
just read the graphic novels though, because I feel like they will be better paced.
yeah. I did see a couple of those. I didn't look at them though, but they did seem pretty
I also have
better.
the Game of Thrones graphic novels.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got this print from the guy who does the covers for them. He doesn't do like the different panels and stuff, but he does
Mhm.
the cover art for all of the comic books that come out. And
That's
I love it. It's Robert Baratheon about to kill Rhaegar Targaryen on the Trident.
oh my gosh.
I'll see if I can find it. It's so cool. Like online.
Yeah, do it. I was looking at these other
Uh,
ones, and a lot of them I haven't read. But Percy Jackson, I haven't seen that either. Um,
okay, so I will send it. Actually, I can probably screen share it. That's not it. This. Oh, God, what the hell is that? Okay, this is it. But oh wait, okay, it's a better. It looked fuzzy for a minute, but that's because I guess it hadn't loaded all the way. All right, I'm going to pull it out and then screen share it. Oh, where'd it go?
see how this works.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna make it happen. Come on, computer, hurry up. Loading. Okay. Capture, cameraman, screen share. This one. Start screen share.
It's
Is it up?
black. It's black. Ah!
It should be up.
Ooh.
Isn't it pretty?
Oh my gosh.
Isn't it super pretty?
I like it.
Super
Dragons.
pretty.
That's
Okay, how do
awesome.
I end the screen share?
Still
Cancel.
black.
Okay,
Oh, you're
yay!
back. Yay.
Yay!
Huzzah.
Made it work. Anyway, I love it.
That's awesome. And so do you have that for your wall or something like that,
Yeah,
or
it's in my hallway. I have a
sweet?
lot of art from conventions in my apartment.
Mhm.
That's just some of it over there. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 framed pictures just around my desk.
Awesome.
It's everywhere. But so great. Awesome. Much loves. Such pictures. Wow.
Yes. Fantastic.
All right. Well, it is 10:02. We
Mhm.
did an adequate job staying on topic.
Yeah. I mean, really.
Dragons.
I'm just gonna put them back up here for the goodbye part.
All
Should have
right.
had him when when he started this. Oh, ow. Hey, that is not for you to claw at, dragon. You're being very rude.
Well
Okay.
then, Chelsea, remind people where they can find you on internet. social media, websites.
Well, my name is Kelsey. I am Mother of Dragons. And you can find me at aprilsprinkles.blogspot.com. I'm also Crafty Little Kels on Twitter and
That's
Instagram. And I have a lot of stuff, but you can find that on my blog. Yay!
Yay! And then I'm Amanda. You can mostly find me on geekforia.net or at geekforia1 on Instagram or Twitter or Tumblr. I think Tumblr is spelled out ONE, and the other ones are just a number.
Ah.
I don't know why I put that one on the end. There's like no reason to. It wasn't like somebody else had Euphoria.
Yeah.
But I did that.
I've
And
done
then
that
you can
before
also
too.
find me on Junkies Nation. Sometimes I write for Superhero Esque, which is a great site. You should check that out.
There you also.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can go ahead and watch a bunch of the other ones. There's 9 other ones. This is number
Yeah.
10. We're awesome.
I've been 3 now, I think.
Yay! I've been
Yay.
too many.
So many, Amanda.
So many. Such Amanda. Wow.
Amanda
Anyway,
everywhere.
so we're gonna stop the broadcast, but thanks for watching. It's been a blast. Kelsey and I had fun. Look at all those
Yeah.
dragons.